Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today, Modernizing Beyond ServiceNow. I'm Laura Walker. I'll be your host. I'm the Director of Business Development at Stratacom. Today's webinar is going to be focused on showcasing the Halo IT Service Management solution and how it can be a great modern alternative to ServiceNow. Joining me from Halo is Reed Benson. He'll be our presenter today. Before we get started, I wanted to cover a couple of quick housekeeping items. We are recording today's session, so we'll be happy to share that out as a link in the next couple of days after we get it uploaded. We'd also like to invite you to submit questions and answers you may have. We'll be addressing those at the end. There's a couple ways you could put them in. There's a Q&A tab. There's also a chat tab. So please feel free to put questions and answers there as you have them throughout our conversation. I'd like to start with just one quick slide for anyone who may be unfamiliar with Stratacom. Stratacom, we are a Halo partner. We've been providing IT service management consulting services since 1997. We work with customers across all industry verticals, as well as government customers. We do end-to-end services, everything from implementation through ongoing managed services and everything in between. And we really focus on modernization and transformation experts. With that, I'd like to jump right into it because we have a lot to see in the hour here. So I'd like to connect you with Reed Benson from Halo, who's going to be leading through. Again, please put Q&A in. We'll address those at the end. With that, Reed, whenever you're ready, the screen is all yours.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Laura, and thank you all for attending the session today. What I'm going to do is kick us off with a quick intro to Halo, and I'm hoping that we don't have paralysis from our slide decks here, but I'm going to be very quick. I want to make sure that we spend the bulk of the time in the platform today, but I just want to run through a handful of items and really just a quick intro. And so what is it that we do? We offer global enterprise aligned service management software for IT, HR, facilities, development, payroll, legal, customer service, marketing, any teams offering services to their user base. And we are the world's fastest growing service management company, used and trusted by global organizations that include Microsoft, Red Bull, and Rabobank. And I won't hammer home every single bullet point here, but I do want to call out that we've been around since 1994. And we had 24 years of product-led growth before the first Halo release. So in 1994, we kicked off as Net Help Desk. And this was a Windows-based application installed on your laptop, desktop, etc. And in 2018, we revamped the solution and rebuilt the front end in the React framework and pivoted into the Halo brand that you see today. And we have full private ownership. And this allows for us to offer independence that really does put the customer and our partner networks first rather than prioritizing stakeholder demands. A couple key things that tie right into that are our all-inclusive pricing model, no paywalls, no modular tiers, AI built right into the platform and included for all the customers, as well as long-term thinking reflected in a 10-year no buyout clause. So we have no mergers, no acquisitions in a 10-year rolling period on all contracts, and customer-friendly policies, which include crediting unused licenses, allowing free access to the platform throughout implementation, really just ensuring that you're not paying for multiple platforms while rolling out an implementation of the Halo product. And this is just a quick snapshot of the market comparisons here. And from a product snapshot, we offer both SaaS and self-hosted opportunities. And again, that all-inclusive licensing model, which you'll see when we open up the system today and go through the product. And we offer competitive pricing with flexible licensing structure. So you can have named and concurrent licenses, and you can mix and match the two as well. So for any departments that have less of a full-time requirement or need to access the tool, but still need to offer resolution and support to their end users, throw that concurrent license in place. If you have a global organization with shifts, or if you have interns or students who need to access the system frequently, we can share those licenses as well as offer the name structure. And the tool is highly configurable and all low code, no code. And we have 200 plus pre-built connectors and integrations, powerful in-app reporting, and an API-centric architecture with the React front end. Just a quick insight on a ServiceNow comparison. One of the core differences from Halo and ServiceNow is the total cost of ownership. Again, the Halo platform offers that all-inclusive licensing model. If you see a feature you want to use, turn it on. No additional SKU or cost will come in. We have that modern and intuitive UI, which I'm hopeful we'll notice today, self-hosted option and out-of-the-box data encryption, non-modular structure allowing for an inclusive experience with no cost barriers, and that goes for all departments, and multi-tenanted architecture to allow unified user experiences. Now at this time, I'm going to stop my screen share and I want to get into the product. And I do welcome questions as we go through today. I want to be sure that we're comfortable with what we're looking at and we have all items addressed. I'm just switching my tabs real fast. Bear with me. I'm going to go ahead and get my screen share up in just a moment. And then we will be looking at the out-of-the-box platform. Now, I do want to reiterate that point here. I've made 0 changes to this environment. All I've done is gone to our website and I hit start a trial. I did that yesterday evening. There's no branding changes. There's no adjustments to the configuration. So we are very much looking at our trial. You can go and start a trial on our website and you have 30 days to click around the platform. But kicking off with this screen here, this is your agent home screen view. This is exactly where you'd expect to land once you authenticate through either your Halo credentials in a 2FA setup or your SSO provider. And based on who you are, you'll note that I'm holding an IT manager role today. Based on who you are, you'll have tailored data. What I mean by that is the system allows for dashboards to be shared across teams, agents, and departments, and understands my level of access, in turn, providing data that's relevant to me. So the open 80 incidents that I can view, the incidents by team of the teams that I have oversight for, any of the breaching SLA records that apply to my workload or my team's workload, as well as incidents by category and a new ticket breakdown. These are fully customizable and they're fully drillable as well. So if I want to drive into any of these sections, whether it's a breaching SLA record, I can open it up in a pop-out vein, or I can click right into it to further action it through our workflow. You also have opportunities to bulk select any of those records and action them directly on the home screen, whether it's a reassign function, clustering these tickets together and bringing us into an escalated problem flow, changing the category, reassigning, and the list goes on there with available actions. And on the left-hand side, you'll notice our workspaces. This is ITIL aligned format and structure to ensure that anytime we get an incident, a request, a problem, a change, it drives to the relevant location, which also contains access for our various roles, ensuring that there is no more, no less visibility in the platform than required for the agents logged in to do their day-to-day functions. We've also bundled all of these workspaces and areas together in a My Workspace. You jump into My Work, and this shows you everything assigned to you, and it still breaks that down by work type. So I can see my project tasks, my service requests, incidents, major incidents, and any other tickets that are assigned to me in the tool. Once we get past these workspaces, or ticket areas as we call them, we then see more of the modules, and that's calendar, CMDB, knowledge base, software releases, inventory, dashboarding, event management, and the list goes on. And this is that area where you can jump in and you can enable or disable any feature that you'd like. So again, this all-inclusive model allows you to come in, roll out your Halo implementation, and then scale up accordingly over time. You might find that after an initial rollout, you want to get in and start utilizing project management. Again, there will be no additional SKU for turning on that function and utilizing it for any given department. I also want to come into our tenant real fast because the tenant is a great view and a way to highlight our native tie-in to your identity management providers. This gives us more of that enterprise level view here with our top level organization, our various departments utilizing the platform. The teams are highlighted in yellow underneath those departments, and you'll also notice throughout the presentation that these teams directly correlate to your ticket queues. And of course, falling under those teams are the individual agents. Now, the reason I'm calling this out is because you may have multiple departments who are interested in the platform, and you might look at my IT manager view and think, well, that's a lot of content, that's a lot of information and areas to access. But if I jump into someone's view like Robert James here, Robert is our HR manager. I can use this impersonate agent function, and we'll see that Robert has significantly less access to these different workspaces and areas in the platform. There's a siloed out HR workspace, reduced visibility into your assets, reduced visibility into configuration as well. Now, this can be quite helpful when you do have multiple departments and you want there to be some layer or level of governance at the department. You have opportunities for these department heads or managers to have unique granular access to only processes that apply to their team or department. So Robert can make changes to HR and payroll related ticket types, workflows, approval processes, but of course cannot make any changes to the IT or facilities side of the application. Now, another reason for calling this area out in the org chart is because we can tie directly into your identity management tool to then build these roles, and this applies to your end users as well. So that way, the moment end users and agents are brought into Halo, they inherit the relevant role, which deems access across the tool. So again, they only see what they require and there's no clutter in the tool. For an end user example, this would be your services available in the catalog, your accessible knowledge base articles, the type of tickets that you can view. So you might have an elevated permission where you could see site-wide, department-wide, or company-wide tickets that have been logged, or assets for that matter. Now, I do want to pop over to the end user portal and provide a little bit of an overview here. We've spent our full time so far on the agent side. When I come over to the end user portal, of course, this is where the end users will land, though we can embed this directly in Microsoft Teams as another opportunity for them to log records and view data. We can have tickets come in through email, phone calls. But I want to run through the portals here, and you have opportunities for monitored services to be posted out. This can be dynamic, and it can be done through our API. It can be done through email functionality, or it can be done through ticket-driven workflows, ensuring that we are keeping our users up to date with any sort of planned maintenance records, fault records, or changes occurring in the system. An end user can click into this example here and understand that we have a planned maintenance scheduled for this date and this time, ensuring that we're not seeing an influx of tickets around Microsoft Teams being inaccessible around this date and time. Also, end users can automatically have subscriptions to these notifications to ensure they don't have to come back to the portal view to see these. They can launch into their Teams environment or can launch into their inbox. We then have a Google-style search bar here for the end users. If I query print, I see any knowledge base articles, services, or tickets that we've logged on the portal. I can also jump into our service catalog, which we'll spend some time in today. I can dive right in and log an incident, reference those tickets or knowledge base articles, and lean into a virtual agent use case as well. I think to kick this off, I want to jump in and I want to start with our incident flow. So I'm going to jump in, and this is our incident form. The system knows who I am because I've logged in with my credentials. We then have our customizable field list here, and I'm just going to indicate that I'm having a printer issue. Straight away, the system is going to throw suggested knowledge base articles, and if I'm being a proactive end user, I'm going to open up those KBs. As soon as I open that up, it is going to nest itself directly into the form. So at this stage, I'm really encouraged and borderline enforced to at least skim through the content that we've taken time to build out and apply to the user base. So I can scroll through and look at the steps, the screenshots, perhaps even the embedded video. Only once I reach the base of this article can I determine whether it was helpful or not. We can get far more granular data from our reporting suite, understanding KB utilization, the traffic, who's viewing the articles, how frequently, when. We can use that in tandem with our general feedback from the user base as well. Here I'm going to jump in and add additional details, assuming that knowledge base article didn't provide my resolution. Now that's a fully rich text box, so I can add in emojis, attachments, screenshots, and then I can also indicate my impact. Again, this is a customizable field list. You might say we don't want end users determining impact and urgency. We want there to be automated AI triage where we're evaluating that context, applying the relevant SLA. We can embed all of this. It's really a matter of your preference and how you want to manage the triage stage, whether you have that triage function or dispatch opportunity, or if you want to automate that. And by default, you will have visibility into the associated assets against the end user who's logged in. This is one of those areas in which we can offer an extended or elevated user permission to ensure they see, again, site-wide, department-wide, or organization-wide asset lists. And there could be shared assets as well. So perhaps for my building or my hallway, we all share and have access to this printer to ensure we can relate it or link it to any incidents or problems we may encounter. And then lastly, I'm going to go ahead and categorize. I have the opportunity to drag and drop any attachments or just click here to open up my file explorer. And then I go ahead and submit. And the system is going to launch us right into that new ticket screen for the end user, giving us an overview of what we've submitted, the ticket ID, the workflow stages, so we can see 3 stages of triage, in progress, and resolved, as well as any status updates and opportunities to update the record directly from this view, like add note or request escalation. You can build your own custom user actions as well. Now that I'm back on the agent side, I want to pop into the incident section because that's the type of record we logged. That's where we'd expect it to land. And rather than this going to our sort of catch-all unassigned queue, we actually have automated assignment out of the box, leaning into historical context to properly assign these records out using essentially a no-code qualification matching function. When I open up the printer issue that I logged, we can see this new ticket screen from the agent side. We've got a lot of same or similar data because the end users provided it for us, but there's quite an extended view here where I can see our ticket information column, looking at the ticket type, the workflow, the assignment, total time recorded on this ticket, any additional details. And of course, the properties we've mapped over from our identity management or Active Directory, understanding who's logged the ticket, what any of their relevant properties are, like contact information, manager, department. We can call them on Teams, message them on Teams directly through Halo, as well as view any of their connected assets. And through integration or custom integration, we can launch remote sessions right onto those devices associated against the user's account as well, and view any of their other open tickets. Now on more of the primary screen here, we have our progress tab. This is going to track the back and forth between agent to agent, agent to end user, agent communications to vendors. It's really your history thread of the ticket and how it's being actioned. It'll also be a full audit trail as well. I can get us out of this more conversation and internal view and click into all actions. And here's where we see automations, rules being met, background insights running. You can see any related assets on any given record where there's associated assets or CIs. We have our additional fields tab here showing us additional information logged by the end user, and this tab can be moved down here to align with the additional details here. We can see who's viewing this ticket. We can also get into our AI Insights tab here where we are automatically populating generated summaries, priority, suggested ticket type, tonality, offering suggested resolution as well. Down here we have our AI suggestions, which you have the governance and the opportunity to determine when or where these AI functions automatically apply versus when there is more manual intervention by the agent. You can see that example right here. We told the system up to a certain confidence score based on the historic data, automatically assign these tickets out. Whereas we want there to be more manual intervention to determine and establish the urgency because we've captured the impact. The urgency would then extend and use a matrix between impact and urgency values to set our priority and SLA. But I can apply that suggestion. I can also apply this suggestion here that is looking at all of our matched tickets. And based on the number of matched tickets and the confidence score that AI has against those matched tickets, we are getting a suggestion to go ahead and cluster all those records together and escalate us into a problem flow. Your organizations may say, well, that's skipping a step. We want to get into a major incident process first and then flow into a problem stream. You can absolutely align that through the configuration, but this is leaning into our match ticket table down here. And again, we've embedded this governance saying if there are more than 5 tickets and the confidence score exceeds 90% on all these records, meaning each ticket has 90% or more alignment, then we would want this sort of suggestion. And you might say, well, if we have 10 match tickets, then we want this to automatically kick in. So you have that opportunity to embed that layer and determine exactly when and where you want this automation to kick in. We also have AI matched articles, getting away from a generic full text search and more of a full context-based search, given the ticket we're looking at and the content of our knowledge base articles. And again, just swinging back to these suggestions, we can always automatically populate these values. So perhaps you want in the table view of tickets, agents to have a more extended summary or have these priorities and types and values like suggested resolution automatically applied. Now that we've gone ahead and applied some of those insights, when I select triage, there's no data I need to capture here. And this is why a lot of our clients today are just automating this process end to end, where we don't have to go in and manually select those values. Every record we jump into is sitting in the in progress stage straight away. Now that I've got us to the in progress stage, you can see there are additional actions available up top. Now I won't go through every single action here, but I will call out opportunities in or out of the box workflow to get into an escalation path. And the system is dynamic enough to understand, based on where the ticket is at, what is the next escalation team that this should go to. And rather than just kicking this out of my queue and not thinking about it ever again, when I use an escalate action, I automatically become a follower of the ticket. And that just means, well, if I push it up to our second line support team, I'm going to receive notifications, updates, and understanding on how this has been resolved in hopes that next time it lands in my queue, I don't have to escalate it. So we want to see a decrease in those escalations over time and use this as almost a training function. We can also get in and escalate the process. We saw that in the AI insights to grab records and bring them into a problem flow. We can tie into a major incident process manually here as well, or embed that into an AI function. Here we can add notes, quite a basic function, but if I come in here and I say that I'm investigating, I can indicate it's taken me 7 minutes to see what's going on with this printer. Saving that action will update our total time recorded on the ticket. It'll also highlight in our timesheet here, the time spent and exactly which ticket that was logged against. I can use this as more of a communication function as well. Maybe I want to tag my colleague Jennifer because I might need help. That's going to send notifications directly to Jennifer's preferred channels, Teams, email, pop-ups in Halo, the mobile app, however Jennifer prefers. And all of those notifications will contain a direct link to this ticket I'm actioning. Jennifer can do a handful of things, jump in and reassign this record, taking primary ownership, or Jennifer could leave me a note saying, go ahead and book in an appointment. I can then use our create appointment action and use our scheduler feature, which we have a two-way sync with both Google Calendars and Exchange Calendars, so I can see Jennifer's best availability. Drop that scheduler view down, book in my start date, end date time. We'll get James out of here and loop Jennifer into this call, and then we can determine any appointment type that we're looking for, whether it be phone call, Teams call, conference room booking, etc. Then when I save, that will send out notifications to both myself, Jennifer, and store those appointments directly in our Exchange or Google Calendars, as well as the Halo Calendar view. Now we have another feature over here that's been hovering around, and this is our problem resolution finder. This is using AI search to find us the most prominent knowledge base articles, as well as any matching problems in the tool, any similar open incidents, or any similar closed incidents. Each of those widgets is driving the agents towards the next best course of action in terms of managing this ticket. If I want to open up that knowledge base article, I can do so, and I can skim through it. And if I think that's exactly what the end user requires, I can hit send with next action. And then when I select email user, we automatically insert our canned text and the externally visible KB that I can kick over. You have your customizable email templates here. When I send this, a couple automations occur in the background. 1, our status changes to with user. 2, our SLA is placed on hold. And 3, we can automatically notify the end user on a set frequency. We might want to send them a reminder a day for 3 days. If we don't get any feedback on that 4th day, Halo can say, well, that article must have resolved their issue. So automatic resolution and closure on these records, ensuring that agents don't have to chase on any given ticket that they've responded to. As soon as I respond, this can sort of leave my ticket view as well to ensure I'm only working on active tickets that need to see responses from me. And I can jump in and tie in conversations directly to our vendors. You can see that we've presumptuously put ourselves in here as well as Dell. I can pop in and grab a contract value, understand or map the priority, and then pull from any list of contacts at that vendor level. This feature gives me the opportunity to have a conversation with that end user. And if I'm not finding resolution and this printer seems to be a very serious issue we need to send back to the supplier or manufacturer, we can have that conversation directly against the ticket, updating their system and receiving relevant updates, whether it's an end user update or if it's a vendor update. And against those contracts, we maintain and hold the SLA against the vendor record as well. And then lastly, I can jump in here and just so I have a decent example for a resolution for our end user, I'm just gonna grab our AI resolution. And then I'm gonna pop this into the resolve ticket note. That way there's some content here for the end user. You will notice that I have opportunities to manually trigger a KB creation. This assumes I'm being a proactive agent, and I've recognized that in the last few weeks I've closed many of these tickets and we need to get our documentation up to date. So I can click our KB button, and then when I send this over, I'll have an opportunity to manually build the article. Most organizations today are skipping that step, removing agents from that author stage, and only bringing them in at the stage in which they need to be editors. This is where I could say, yes, I'd like to create a knowledge base article using AI. We can use KCS style workflows moving forward to ensure that we have relevant revision and approval prior to this article being submitted. And as I send it over, end users can provide some one-click feedback, or you can tailor the surveys that you'd like to provide and send those out on a registered frequency of maybe 25, 30, 50% of closed tickets so you don't spam the end user base with suggested customer satisfaction surveys on every closed record. And then we'll see another automation kick in here, where at the end of this workflow, we have the knowledge base assistant that is going through and evaluating the ticket information, the back and forth responses, and drafting that knowledge base article. Again, once that generates, we can go right through that draft flow, review, approve, and then have available to the users or our internal agents. We also have a sentiment analysis running, and you can see that in the closure details. This is really a touchless survey score. And what that means is on every ticket that we close that is user facing, we can ensure there are some data points that we can lean into for customer satisfaction, whether they gave us feedback or not. There's an AI analysis running in the background, ensuring that we have some metric and data to lean into for every ticket we offer our services. Now that we've closed that record, I do quickly want to pause here. I'm going to check the Q&A section, although I don't see any posts in there yet. I will continue on, and I'll frequently check in on that Q&A section after I go through different areas. But I do want to get us outside of the incident management process here. I want to get us into more of a request flow, and a common pain point would be your onboarding flow. Now, I know that there are endless data points or sources of truth in which your initial onboarding data may come from. Halo has a fully RESTful API, so we can tie into those third-party HR systems. We also have lots of native integration into these systems to bring data down and kick off our process internally. But what I'm going to do in this example is I'm going to jump into our service catalog. And I'm going to get into our onboarding area here. And I'm going to assume the position of HR or a hiring manager, whoever is kicking off this information. And I'm going to go ahead and assume that we are bringing on Laura here to the Halo team. I'll set the employee ID. I'll set the start date as well. One thing that I like to call out when I'm going through this onboarding flow is most commonly what I've seen with implementations is an HR member fills out the core data. Maybe we add in a department field here or a role field. And then we can simply submit this, and then the approver, the hiring manager for that department, for example, can authorize this person being brought on. But more importantly, during that authorization, we can really have a two-step data gathering process where that hiring manager would be the one who then says, well, yeah, they require hardware, they require peripherals and software. So we can collaborate not only on the tasks that are going to trigger from this process, but also on the data collection to ensure that the most relevant individual is giving us this data. And any end user can act as an approver and fill out this initial information that can flow downstream to our parent record and control which tasks we trigger off. Now here you can see that approval stage. And again, any end user can pop into the portal or their team's embedded portal or their inbox and provide approval after reviewing the information here. And it's during that approval process where we could prompt end users to give us additional data. I'll leave an optional comment here indicating this has been approved. As soon as this is approved, it gets us out of that, what I'd call limbo state when it's in the awaiting approval bin, because at that stage, end users or agents don't have the ability to jump in and action this record yet. But now that we've got that approval, if I want to take primary ownership of this parent record, or perhaps this lives with the HR department and only the tasks flood in for the IT department, I can reassign it anywhere I'd like. I'm just doing a quick drag and drop function there and putting it in my queue. So I now am the owner of this record. But this initial record we created is only a parent ticket, and its main job is to house and hold the data, as well as control our plan. And the plan is telling us, based on certain data we collect, we know other tasks and processes will trigger. So I can see that we have our first child ticket that's populated, and it's because we've met our condition. We needed to see the approval status set to approved in order for this first task to generate. For the second task to generate, we need to see the approval, the first task of creating a user in Active Directory closed, and if and only if that box was checked on the form, will our secondary tasks come into play. We can also see who the approver was, and you can have as many steps or layers in an approval process as you'd like, and of course embed approval groups where necessary. And I'm just going to go ahead and call out that this ticket type and workflow here is for our onboarding request and the service request workflow with approval. When I go in we can automatically route these tasks outside of this department or this team. As I scroll down here, we can see that this went out to our HR systems team. It's a task type and a task workflow, but it is directly linked to that parent record. And we've embedded to-do lists. So anyone who receives this task knows all the properties that they need to add directly into the user account they're creating. And only then can we address this as a completed task. And now that I've done this function to create the new user account, we see our additional tasks populate to set up the new user's hardware, install the new user's software, and each of these tasks can have their own automation, own dedicated workflows and processes and assignment. Once all tasks are closed, the system will say, all tasks have been closed. Do you wish to close that parent record now? We can indicate yes, we have now fulfilled that onboarding request. Now, again, there's a handful of ways in which we can automate these processes for the tasks to be fulfilled, for the data to come into Halo. And a really quick and easy example of that is how I manually actioned this create new user and Active Directory task. What we'd like to do is come into this workflow. And the workflow in Halo, as you've seen in the incident flow in this request process, really just determine what we're allowed to do at various stages of the ticket's lifecycle. And what we're allowed to do is governed by these actions. So only once we get the approval do we move into this stage where we can start fulfilling the request. And this is the stage that I might jump in and say, let's go ahead and skip the manual creation of the user account. Let's embed an automation here. And I can build a brand new automation, and it can be something like generate user account. Now that will be our outcome description. The button name can really be anything because nobody's going to see it. It's going to run on an automation. I'm going to tell the system a number of things here. First thing, we can queue up a runbook or a webhook. That is going to come from our RESTful API in our custom integration section where we can call out or get data from any third-party tool with accessible endpoints. Or we can run an Azure action. That Azure action will tie right into our Entra environment. And we have these pre-canned Azure actions available to create the user account or assign the user to a relevant group, which might come into play in any given access request. Or you could come back to your details and you could say, I actually want to queue a PowerShell script. So I'm going to go ahead and run a PowerShell script through Halo as well to update a third-party system. Either way, we have the opportunity to store that new automation, bring it into our workflow, and then I can set conditions on this. So I only want this workflow to run if our status is equal to approved. That way we can skip that manual creation of the user account. We can see our logs and our updates as to when this was successfully run and pushed through directly on that parent record, and then we'd have our tasks to follow. I hope a little bit more insight on the background view is helpful. Every process that we action, whether it's incident, request, problem change, has the supported background workflow and ticket lifecycle effect, and it's all drag and drop, load and no code. Maybe after this automation occurs, you might have a separate stage that spawns off, and we then pass the workflow along based on any automations or manual actions performed. Now, one other thing I wanted to highlight from the incident and request perspective is the opportunity for the system to automatically understand the type of record that is being logged, whether it's in the right format or not. And what I mean by that is when I come back to the portal view, when I go into request something and I just triggered our onboarding flow, we knew in the background that that was the onboarding request type, which is mapped to trigger those processes. One thing that I think is really prominent is Halo's AI ability to understand, even if an end user goes to the wrong screen, what type of request or what type of record is being logged. And a good example of that is coming into what is supported by our backend incident process as an end user indicating that I need a new laptop. This clearly isn't an incident, this is a request. And then I can go ahead and add in any of these values, and I'm just going along, asking IT to get a new laptop here, making that categorization selection, and then submitting. And just like how we saw our first incident create, we see that same value reflected here with the IN prefix indicating it's an incident, and then that value 3138 as the unique identifier. But when I come back to the agent side and I just grab that ticket that was generated, the system has already pivoted that outside of the incident management flow. Apologies, I clicked into the wrong section. The system has already registered and acknowledged that this is not an incident. This is a service request. And you'll see that that unique ID stays the same. So Halo doesn't have unique identifiers at the ITIL type layer. Every record has its own unique ID, whether it's adjusted from an incident to a request to a problem to a change. And at this stage, we've automatically fired off that process where we're getting in and pushing out our approval, getting it directly from the manager, which is coming from our source of truth in our identity management or Active Directory. So just want to highlight that opportunity. Even if an end user lands in the wrong area, the system's evaluating the content of that record and pushing us right into that designated flow, reducing time spent on the triage, reducing time spent on reworking this process and manually triggering these updates, ensuring that we get right into that designated process and offer closer time to resolution for our end users. Now, I do also want to jump in and go through our area here for reporting. Now, of course, there's lots of features that we have in place. I'd be happy to go through the change flow or the problem flow, but I want to get into our reporting suite here and highlight this in-house section. Halo is in a SQL database, so all the information that you capture, whether it's coming from a third-party tool, whether it's syncing daily into Halo, whether it's custom data that we're pulling up, you can get all of that information and you can manipulate it however you see fit from the reporting perspective. But if I jump into what I consider our local library of reports, there are 221 records out of the box. And that is broken down by all these categories, whether it's KPIs, management reports, asset, SLA reports, or Service Desk Institute reports. If I'm skimming through the reporting section and I'm not finding what I'm looking for, I would highly encourage you to check out our online repository because there's another 1,018 records in place. So the second you turn on the Halo environment, there's over 1,200 reports that are accessible to you. And if you find a helpful report in that online repository area, you can go ahead and jump in and then add it to your library immediately. So you can now bring it into a dashboard, send it on a scheduled email basis, or share it with an end user. Now, if I jump in here and I highlight an existing report, I can get in and look at one of our core service desk metric reports. If I look at something like feedback on tickets, we can see that we have our pie chart in place. We also have all the data that we've queried, but this was done so in custom SQL. And the reason for that is we offer an included report writing service under the licenses. So if you come to us and say, we need a report containing this, we'll build it for you and put it in your instance. But most of our support team and our consultants and architects are very comfortable in the SQL language. So we'll spin it up in this format, but you can always pivot it into a load and no code method. You can always start your reports and finish your reports in a load and no code method as well, which I'll be happy to highlight here. I'll stay in this core service desk metric area, and I'm going to go ahead and open up a new report. And I want something that is tickets by team. And of course, I can build this out with any sort of filter, but I'm just going to use this as sort of a master report that I can spin off later. And I'm going to jump into the data source, and I can pull from any given data source that we've embedded, or I can come down and I can use our query builder and pull from entities. This is where I can just handpick the data I want to see returned. Show me the ID, summary, details, when it was created, the team that it's with. Show me when we responded and when we resolved. So what was the date that we closed it and who closed it? How many times did we reassign that ticket and what was the total time taken? Then I'll grab a category value as well. And of course, this is where you can jump in and add those additional conditions, or you can pencil in to any given value here. And you have the opportunity to provide and insert any sort of operations. So if I want to order by, get a sum, count, or average of any of these values, I can pencil in that load and no code format. And I can also set up any type of chart. So when I open up our chart types, we have various chart and graph opportunities. I'll build us a bar chart here and say that the x-axis will be team, because this is a tickets by team report. I can jump into the appearance and modify the look and feel when this is populated in PDF format to insert and have your own branding in place. And I can also control availability. And this will be a section that I come back to in a little bit. What I'm going to do for now is say that only the users or only those under a certain organization, department, or role will have visibility of this report. I'm just going to give this to myself, and I'll bring that full circle in just a moment. Then when I preview that report, we see all the data right in front of me with our bar chart and every bit of information that I've asked for reflected in the column headers. And anywhere there's data in Halo, it's drillable. So I can go open up that ticket ID directly from the screen if there's something glaring about it, if I want to go review that in depth. Now, this is also where you can save your report, and then you have opportunities to make any sort of adjustments that you see fit by using a Save as New feature. So you can embed a very quick and easy filter, and this might be a filter that is only looking at the IT teams. Saving that just gave us a direct clone, and now we have that opportunity to see our broad tickets by team report and our tickets by the IT teams report. Additionally, you can come into any given report and you can use a AI feature that is going to analyze that data. So again, coming back to a customer satisfaction preview, I can use this analyze report feature, and this is going to go through every line in the report, and it is going to give us tangible insights, outcomes, and any data that might be helpful to us in plain English, rather than sifting through that data manually or viewing it in a trend line or in a report. This will spin up and it'll give us lots of quality information that can drive next available actions, like our key findings around the high volume of feedback. Any recurring issues with specific tickets in certain categories like email and password resets, indicating that printer problems are an area in which we're receiving lots of records as well as VPN-related challenges. And then areas for business insights, process improvement opportunities, infrastructure assessments, and ways in which we can optimize these properties. Any of this information can also trigger notifications out to agents, supervisors, managers. Our reporting suite gives you the opportunity based on thresholds or parameters that we instill to fire off notifications. And a common example of this would be, perhaps we're not on a feedback on tickets example, but more of a tickets by category example. We have lots of organizations today who like to retroactively look to their previous weeks and ensure that there wasn't any sort of oversight on potential problems or major incidents. We have reports in place that say if there were 10 or more records that were all linked to the same category, notify the manager of that team the following Monday to make sure that we can go back and make sure we didn't skip a, again, major incident problem. Because if so, we can retroactively go back, grab those records, and bring us into that escalated flow to ensure we have accurate reporting and data to look at for the coming months, quarters, years. Now, one thing that I did here was I gave myself access to this report. Now, of course, I have access to the report. I'm an IT manager and an admin in this instance. But what I wanted to highlight was the opportunity in which we can extend out this view for end users. We've really worked to make sure that end users have suitable access from the portal perspective to insights and information that they need to reduce down the overall costs and licenses that you may need to purchase. And I can add in menu buttons. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to our agent side and I'm going to go into the configuration for the self-service portal. And I'm going to indicate that for the end users, or for certain end users, we want dashboards to be available. I can save that menu button. And then we also want reports to be available. Now I know that I have access to at least one report because I provided it to myself. So I can come over here, I can do a quick refresh. Now when I click into one of these sections, I have full visibility of that tickets by team report that we generated. And I have that insight on the feedback on tickets as well. From here, I can export this information to Excel. I can export it to CSV. I can print it off in PDF format. So you have opportunities here for end users or supervisors, managers to really reduce the need to pay for that license, have full visibility of data. And it could be more in-depth dashboarding where there's full oversight of projects and project management use cases that are applicable to the end user, or any sort of information or oversight for their department. When I pop back here, I can also see I don't have access to any of the dashboards, but that can be provided through the dashboard configuration. One item to call out on the dashboarding in Halo, yes, we can apply it on your home screen view, but we can also apply dashboarding directly within any of your ticketing processes. You'll see in our major incident console here, this is a ticket dashboard. It's looking at all the content and all the data as it pertains to this specific record we're actioning, giving us nice insights and access into prominent data without having to leave the screen. We can also enable a pop-out dashboard view. So in any screen in Halo, as a manager, I can jump in and I can see how agents are doing with this KPI-driven dashboard. I could say that I'm not interested in what Jennifer's up to, but I really want to see how Kaleem's doing this week. Or I can say that I want to see how James is doing this week. And that data immediately pivots and becomes relevant to that agent we've selected. And of course, you have opportunities on the left-hand side to get into some additional dashboarding views like our change dashboard, our managerial dashboard. And anytime we want to bring additional data into the dashboarding section, we can do it from a number of ways. Many of these widgets that I'm hovering over, we didn't need to build a report for. We just said, look at the ticket areas and count the unassigned tickets. Look at the incident section, give us visibility into any critical P1 incidents. So you can just point the system at certain areas. These dashboards and reports refresh every 60 seconds. But if you'd like to get a little bit further into it, then you can in fact bring in data directly from our reporting area. So I could come into a dashboard and I could say that I want to bring in that tickets by team report. So I can come into our layout, I can edit, and I can go ahead and add a widget and then pull directly from the report data or a report chart. And then you can handpick from any of the reports that we've built or the reports that you've built specific to your department, team, organization, etc. Now, at this time, I am just going to open up our all features menu set here. And I promised that we'd have a few minutes at the end here for more of a Q&A segment. And I'm well aware that we got into some overviews of the solution, some incident processes, AI features, and request processes, as well as the reporting and dashboarding. But I do want to open it up a little bit to the floor to see if we have any items that we'd like to revisit, any general questions about Halo, as I'm more than happy to address those and ensure that Laura has some time to close this off at the end as well. If there are no questions, it might be worthwhile sifting through some of our integrations. This might spawn some questions here as well. Quite a number of out-of-the-box integrations here. And if we focused in on the asset management and alerting side, really all of these integrations have a common denominator, which is the way in which you bring data into the tool. So if I turn on Ninja, for example, versus Intune, Halo just wants to connect and talk to those tools, and then we map data over. So it's a very similar process for all the integrations we have in place. We have lots of integrations around your remote support sections, identity management, AI and communication, more alerting and event management processes. And here's where we have opportunities for custom connections, whether it be through a SQL connection or a custom integration where you can use our RESTful API to build out opportunities for posts and gets into third-party tools. Oh, I see something popped in the chat. Okay. If there are no further questions, then I will pass it back to Laura here.
Okay, great. Thank you. With that, this is going to be the end of our presentation today. I wanted to share our contact information here. Try to get the slide full screen. If you've got questions, you'd like follow-on conversations or personalized demos to your team, we're happy to keep the conversation going. My contact information is here. Please do reach out. And again, as a follow-up, we will be sending out the recordings you can view and share with your team at that time as well. I'd like to thank you for attending, and I look forward to being in touch. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you all very much for the time.